guys, thanks for joining me under the MCI MC7. So in a previous video I talked about doing the DD-3 rear brake chambers, and so I did the first one off camera because I've never done one before and I wanted to see what it was about before I get in there and spend a bunch of time on film trying to get things right. The first one, it came out pretty good, and so we're on to the second one here, and it's still mounted in the bus. And let's see, where is it? There it is, right there. So this line, we took it off the other day. It goes, of course, right here. And so I had my little helper step on the brake pedal, so it's leaking out somewhere around the seam. I mean, it's leaking out pretty darn severe. And one of these was having trouble unlocking, and I'm suspecting it's probably this side, because maybe it's just not getting enough pressure to push forward to unlock. But either way, it's leaking. So what we're going to do is pull this DD-3 off and take it apart, make up a parts list, and call Luke in the morning. So here we go. So we're going to start with spraying some penetrating oil on the exposed threads of the studs where the nuts hold the chamber onto the axle bracket. And not that it's gonna make it, I mean, it'll make it come apart a little easier. It's not gonna like allow it to break free any easier, because it's just, there's not gonna be enough time for the penetrating oil to soak in there. But lubricating the threads on the outside will at least reduce the chance of the threads galling up as the nut is coming off, and hopefully not break a stud like it did on the first one. So there's a little there, and if I can get a stream out of this thing, there we go, and hit the where the pivot pin is as well. And so those nuts are a 15/16 hex, and I've got a flex socket here like that, and that'll go on there and allow me to get the 1/2-inch drive impact gun up there, and well, let's see if the I don't know if I'm at an angle where it can really show, but anyway, all right, let's give it a try, see if they come off. Ah, that pulled the whole stud with the nut and the washer. It's kind of hard to see. It's not like good light under here, but there we go. Yeah, so that anyway, so I pulled the whole stud out, which is fine. That's not a problem. I'm going to replace the studs and the nuts and the washers. I just want to have fresh stuff in there. The studs that came out on the other side, they were really whittled with rust. One of the studs broke, but the other one was probably 65% of the diameter of what it should be, and that's something that definitely needed to be replaced. It wasn't just a little surface rust on the stud. It was it was pretty whittled away from rust. So anyway, probably before I pull out the next one, I ought to try and get that pin out of there. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that. Well, it's moving. It's moving a little bit. Oh, there it goes. It came out. I gotta say, that was a lot easier than the other side. Let me turn this screen back on. Yeah, all right, so we got that. And all right, so now we're ready to take the other nut and get the chamber out of there. But wait a minute, before I take that other nut, not only did I need to take out the pin, but it'll be easier if it's mounted in place to disconnect all the lines off it. So let's do that. Okay, so we will, next thing, so the next step from here is to take the nuts off. However, before that even, what we need to do is draw some lines here, like that. But I think I want to move this up a little bit, so probably about there, and yeah, I'll put that where I want it. So, all right, so that's what we did. Oops. Do some lines so we can mark where it needs to go. And the other thing is, if you take a look, let me get the light in the right place. There's the part of that clamp, the bolt part of the clamp for the chamber is right up against the shock. So we're gonna rotate that so it's in a position that it's not gonna touch anything else, and it'll be better off if it's not conflicting with anything. So anyway, so we wanted to line up the three pieces of the chamber so they can go back where we want them. And also we're going to need to let's see, let me make a mark for that, because about right here, like that. Yeah, about there. And oh, wait a minute, that's gonna get moved up. Let me smudge that out, and oops, I'll put it up here because this is going to go back the same way. But yeah, right about on top is where we're going to want the clamp to be, and this way the clamps can go back on without rubbing up against anything. So all right, let's get that last nut and then we'll go over to the bench. You've seen Lefty Lucy before. I'll turn the camera off and meet you at the bench. So here's the DD-3 chamber, and unlike a truck chamber, this thing isn't going to explode if you try to take it apart. Truck chambers are cheap, and well, a lot cheaper than a DD-3 anyway, but either way, DD-3 is meant to be rebuilt, and you can buy all the bits and pieces for it, and they're not explosive like a truck chamber if you try to take it apart. So let's go ahead and take it apart. Whoop. Here we go. All right. Velvac ink. Well, this diaphragm looks okay. And here's a separator. This separator, with the later diaphragms, it tells you not to use this separator, which is a good thing, because if you take a look, This one is bent around here, and that might be why this chamber is leaking. So I'll set all this stuff to the side. Now let's take apart the rest of it. Oops. Oh, I need a wrench on that. I'll spray some deep creep on these threads here. They seem to be getting a little tight. Oh, well, I guess there's only one side to this band. There we go. Let's get the other one. We're going to hold it down like this and get this band clamp off, just in case the little sprag rollers aren't holding, or lock rollers they might call them. Just want to make sure it doesn't go flying. Actually, it wouldn't go flying out because it's still got the yoke on it. All right, let's take a look at this diaphragm, see if we could see anywhere that it might be ruptured. Oh yeah, this is pretty beat up. If you take a close look right there, it's that separator plate was digging in. Actually, this appears to be the style that doesn't need the separator plate. But anyway, let's about the separator plate. There was a bulletin on that, and yeah, let me show it to you. All right, so yeah, here's another stud that is only holding on by a fraction of what it should be. If I can angle this, oh yeah, so you should be able to see it now. It's really whittled away down around where the bracket was holding it. I guess you get moisture, you know, some sediment buildup or rust dust, and then moisture, and then, you know, that just kind of soaks in and keeps eating away at that until there's nothing left. And this one's getting kind of close to, wow, this has got to be like 50% maybe. So yeah, new studs it'll get. All right, so now we're on Vice Cam, not Miami Vice, North Adams Vice. So here we go. We're gonna put the chamber in here and unscrew the yoke off of it. I've seen other guys take the whole stud out of there, but I couldn't get it out on the last one, and it didn't inhibit the rebuilding process to have it in there. So we'll just take it out of this one. Okay, so there's that, and we'll get the nut with the socket. All right, that should be 15/16 as well. Yeah, it figures it's gonna try to spin that, but let's get a smaller pair of pipe wrench on here. And I'm not too worried about the threads down in this area. You know, the yoke and the nut doesn't go on that far to make a difference. There we go. All right, so let's take off what's left of that. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take the rest of it apart. So I made this tool here with the hose, and it'll hook up to the air supply, and I'll put air into the release side of the to release the lock anyway. Gotta go find my wrench. Okay, tighten this up. Now the first one of these that I separated, I wasn't sure what to expect, you know, on the amount of force that it was going to come apart with. So what I did was I put it in the vise, or not the vise, the press, and this way, once I released it, I could release the press as well, and then everything came apart controlled. But the reality is, this is not too hard to hold by your hand. So I'm going to put some good down pressure on this and open this valve, and it should come up. Yep, here it comes. All right, we still have a little ways to go. You know what I think is, I think it's got some rust. So you can push that back down. Yeah. So if you look, it's got some rust here that needs to be cleaned up, and that's not sliding through the rollers because it's a little thicker. So we're going to clean that up, and then the thing should slide all the way off. Okay, well, let's see. You know, I'm going to bring this all over to the vise. This way I can hold this and be able to sand that a little easier. Meet you over there. Okay, so the chamber's in the vise by that one stud we're going to replace. Normally we wouldn't hold the stud as this tight by its threads if we were planning to reuse it. So, clean off this rust buildup. And this is, I think it's some 80 grit emery strip. Just like shining shoes, only better. Okay, now let's go back over to the bench, see if it'll come apart. Okay, let's try this again. Gonna make sure the valve is closed, just like that. Well, of course, everybody, no, not everybody, but if you don't know already, when it's crosswise, ball valve is closed. When it's in line, ball valve is open. So we want it crosswise when we apply air, because if it was open, this thing would come flying apart when I didn't expect it to. All right, so let's a little down pressure on this, and let me put some air. And there we go, and there it is, came off. So that is how intense this spring is. If you're not ready for it, it'll cause you some pain. But if you know what to expect, then you can do everything in a controlled fashion. I didn't quite know what to expect when I did the first one, which is why I did it in the press. Slower, but it was safe, because this thing, even if it was a lot heavier spring, it wasn't going to budge a 75-ton press. So the other thing is the spring's in good condition here. It's not rusted. Sometimes, you know, there's I saw in another video a guy talked about this drain that's down here. If you can see it, if I can get this monitor portion to work on the camera, but here's a drain, and that should always be on the bottom. If you get the wrong side of DD-3 chamber, you know, like if you put a left side on the right, or vice versa, then this drain might end up on top. Now this thing's going to hold water, and if it holds water, things are going to rust and corrode. Okay, well, let me finish taking this thing apart. Take the air tool off of here. So these chambers have been on the bus for who knows how long. So I get the MCI manual when I'm doing the first one. I don't have it out for this one because I know what to expect. But this spring, there's a spring right here, and this spring holds this seal in place, which that seal is pretty darn bad. It's missing a quarter of it down here. So maybe that's why the chamber was having a problem releasing. But anyway, this spring retains that seal in place. Let's see, what next? All right, so this plate has to come off of here, and what we can do is pull that stud, which we're going to go back over to the North Adams vise and clamp around that stud and see if we can get this thing apart. Unscrew that stud, and then the plate will come off. I mean, the plate should come off over the stud, but the way it's so rusted around there, I'm just going to try to take them off together. Okay, here we are back at the vise, and I'm going to point a fan this way because it's kind of hot in here. So hopefully there's no wind noise, but all right, let's see if we can. Oh man, that stud's in there good. Might have to heat it with the torch a little bit to get it free, but boy, man, can't move it. All right, hang on, I'll get the torch. There we go. The striker doesn't work very good, but it's going to heat up around the casting. I don't want to get it too hot. I don't know if this is aluminum or magnesium. Wow, that sucker's on there. All right, let me try to find some way to put some leverage on this. I I need a strap wrench, I think. You know what, the only strap wrench I had is probably long gone, because it never really worked that well. Well, let's try a little more heat. Try this again. Golly. If I hit it in the right spot, you shouldn't really risk much damage on it. But it's turning. There it goes. I just had to break it free. Ugh. Wow. All right. There. Wow, that one was a little bit of a struggle. Seen worse, but it was a little bit of a struggle. Hey, look, there's the that's the other stud that was broken off. There was almost nothing to hold on to, and it just barely got it off of there. But let's oh, it's not hot. Thought it might have been hot. You can take a good look at it again. Almost like a dog bone. Just it's that whittled away. So this was a lit fuse, ready to break free on some long downhill with a bunch of pedestrians at the bottom. You know. Where you know, we would lose the brakes. So brakes, I think, is the #1 safety item. So make sure before you take out a 15-ton vehicle to make sure the brakes work. Go through all that stuff. It's, you know, it's not worth having a major accident, you know, over some silly little thing like this. Yeah, a lot of times it might not be convenient to do it, but the reality is it needs to get done. All right, let's go back to the bench. Oh, speaking of safety things, always shut off the torches when you're done with them. You never want to leave pressure on these diaphragms. If a diaphragm starts to leak, then it's going to fill this area with oxygen or acetylene, and then we might have a big, really big problem. So always make sure to shut off the torches. You know, I kind of have that habit of whenever I walk, if the torches are, you know, no matter where they are, if I walk past them and they're within arm's reach, I'll put my hands on here just to make sure every time. Okay, so back here at the bench. Let's get the rest of that seal out of there. And there's a bushing. It's right here. It's a kind of a split. Oh, there it goes. It moves. Let me get it out of there and show you what it looks like. Oops. Almost had it. I mean, this bushing probably isn't really like when I got the rebuild kit last time from US Coach, it came with a new bushing, which you know, it's not a bad idea to replace it if you have a new one, but it doesn't seem like it's really worn. I mean, it's got some streaks and stuff in there, but you know, it's not brittle, it's not cracked. If you don't have one, this is probably one of the parts that isn't so bad to reuse. All right, let's try to get this plate off of here. Okay, so the plate looks okay. So I needed this plastic piece here because as I was taking apart, there is a spring underneath there, and if this is holding on by one screw, and it could stand the chance of coming up, you know, just coming up like that and breaking off the one corner. So we're gonna go ahead and take this apart. I'll get them all loose, but I won't take them all out until I get them all loose. All right, so there's a on the last one there was one that was really rusted. I guess that's the closest one to the bottom, so apparently there is a little bit of moisture that passes through there and causes the screw to rust. But you know, we can take a pick and kind of clean out the cross of the Phillips screw there, and then hopefully we can get it apart. The other three weren't all that tight. Oh, of course this one is. Let me see if I can get any more rust out of there. Kind of tap the screwdriver a little bit to drive it in. There it goes. Oh, it was stuck, but we got it. Whew. I was thinking it was going to be a problem like that last one. We'll set all this hardware in that cup there, even the old stud. Okay, so now I'm gonna hold this down as I take out these last two screws. Oh, and there it is. Yeah, I don't know which spring is stronger, this one or the big one, you know, but this is the spring that applies the cam rollers, and here's a washer that goes on top. It's a little warped, but it's not unusable. But I'll find out if US Coach has one of these washers. They probably do, but I don't know if I'll replace it. This one actually, it's wiping off and not looking so bad. Yeah, I'll probably reuse it. Looks like Never Sees. Somebody used Never Sees in here, and I don't really know what the correct grease is. I looked around. MCI manual has a recommendation for grease. Without looking it up, I don't remember what the spec was. It was like 203 something, M203. But let me post it right here on the screen. Once I go to editing, then you can see what I was reading. But looking that up online, I didn't really see what find a compatible grease with that. So what I ended up using was Lubriplate 105, which is a light grease, because in some of the research I did the other day, somebody did talk about white lithium grease on his, using that on his DD-3 chambers, and that's worked good for him. So this this never sees, it crusts up. Okay, you back with me? I saw you drop off there. I thought you fainted, but I guess it was just the camera batteries dying. So here we go. Where was I? I was talking about never sees. Somebody had put never sees in here, and while never sees is great on things like bolts and stuff, I wouldn't use it in an area that has rollers, because this never sees, like, it crusts, like it solidifies after a while. And I don't know, I just don't think it's really the right lubricant for here. So I don't think I would be tempted to put never sees back. I'm gonna go with the Lubriplate 105 again, and we'll see. Maybe 20-30 years from now I might say, oh, I wouldn't put Lubriplate 105 in because it crusts up. But I don't know, that's a long time from now. But never sees does seem to do that when it gets, after it gets hot. It does tend to leave some crusty sediment, and it's good to put on like exhaust bolts and stuff, because then that sediment just sits in there, and it prevents water from wicking into the bolt, I think, to some degree, and so it'll come apart later when you want it to. But as far as having rollers rolling over this crusty stuff, I don't think it's appropriate for that. All right, so here's what do they call this? I don't know if they called it the cone. You know what, I'll write that on the bottom of the screen here as well. To me, it's kind of like a sprag race, I guess, because I'm a transmission rebuilder. But and that thing comes out of here if I can get it out. Almost. It's near the top. Oh, come on. Come on. I guess it got a little cocked. There we go. It's out. And then this is the piston, the apply piston for the rollers. It pushes up on the rollers to release them. So it's, I shouldn't call it an apply piston. I should call it a piston for disengagement. But it comes up and it pushes. So this tapers. The further down you go, let's see if I get the right angle here, but the further that way you go, the tighter it is. So this thing coming from this way is going to push those rollers into the wider diameter where they're not gripping on this shaft here to lock it in position. And one more thing in there. There's a big O-ring at the bottom that is what they actually, MCI calls it a grommet. I don't know why they don't call it an O-ring. It's not grommet-like at all. It's O-ring-like. But that's what goes underneath the piston and seals to be able to push a piston, to allow the air to push a piston up to release the rollers off the shaft. All right, so let's see, as far as rebuild stuff, this plastic part is good, but the seal in here is pretty ugly. Now, it's pretty ugly, an oxymoron, because ugly and pretty are opposites, but we use them together to emphasize filth, I guess. I don't know, but it's pretty ugly. Or is it ugly pretty? One of the two. So that seal is going to get replaced, and then of course the seal that was right here, that was held down by this spring, is going to get replaced. There's an O-ring here, just a small O-ring, and to tell you the truth, I mean, if I were stuck on the side of the road, this O-ring and the grommet that applies the piston they can go back in and continue to do their job. But since it's all apart and it's on the bench and the bus is in the shop, we're going to do this as complete as we can. So that means replacing the things that are still working. Now, the funny thing is, when I bought that kit, it didn't come with this big gasket here, this big thick rubber gasket. Luckily this one's in good shape, although I guess using the torch I almost set it on fire, or maybe I did, because it's a little ashy there. But it'll go back in and it'll be okay. Now, the other thing I know I do need is this vent seal. So I'm going to order the kit. I'm going to order the vent seal, and I've already got the two diaphragms. They've been waiting here now I've had them for, gosh, 2 or 3 weeks. And so we're finally going to go ahead and get this project going. But I think what I'm going to do first is bring this over to the lathe and try to clean it up. I don't know, maybe I'll put it through the washing machine first, just to get it cleaned up. But yeah, well, that's about it. So that's a DD-3 chamber coming apart, and if you know what to expect, it is absolutely no big deal on taking apart this chamber. Well, I guess that's probably it for tonight. I'll get the stuff cleaned up tomorrow or sometime. I'm going to order the parts tomorrow, probably put all this stuff in a box, and wait to get the parts, and then I'll clean everything up and then do the assembly on it, which again is, you know, these actually go pretty quick. You know, if you have a little mechanical aptitude and you need to do this job, you can buy the parts and do it yourself. As a matter of fact, if you think all the rollers and the seals, all that are in good shape, and you just wanted to freshen up your diaphragms, you can do that with the chambers mounted in the bus. You can do it that way. But I wanted to go through these complete, which is why it's on the bench. So, all right, it's about 11:25 p.m. and I think I'm going to be heading in for the evening. So, hey, have a great rest of your day or rest of your evening, and I will see you when we clean this up and put it together.